We are live.
All
Uh,
right.
how's everyone doing? My name is Mike Miaska with the American Supply Association, and we'd like to welcome you to another one of our ASA COVID-19 distributor town hall meetings. We've kind of run through the gamut here over the last month. We talked to distributors, manufacturers, reps, and earlier this week, folks in the PVF industry. We're going to turn our attention with this particular one to the showroom side of our industry, and joined by a couple of folks that know a thing or two about showrooms. First, from Sandpiper Supply down in Georgia, Christy Ellis. Nice to see you, Christy.
Hi, nice to see you as well.
And Central Arizona Supply out of Mesa, Arizona, Jeremy Smith. Always good to see you, Jeremy.
Yes, thank you. You as well.
All right. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything, Christy, how many showrooms do you guys operate, and how many folks do you employ?
We're just one location, and we have about 21 employees here.
All right. Jeremy?
We have 8 locations, and we have 25 showroom salespeople spread between those 8 locations and outside staff.
Yeah. We only have 4 of us in the showroom.
In these previous interviews that I've done, we heard on and off that some places have closed showrooms completely, or locked the doors completely. What's kind of the physical brick and mortar presence for you guys current day?
I'll go. I'll start. So, Arizona's a little bit, has been a little bit strange. It was slow in the first place to kind of put any orders in place and whatnot, but we've just kind of created some serious social distancing, but the showrooms have really had slowed down so dramatically, and people had stopped coming in, that we never actually took the step of being like, our showrooms are actually closed, because it was like, we're saying they're closed, but it doesn't matter, no one's coming in anyway. So we kind of created quite big barriers between our staff and anyone who does come in. But then we're also we're encouraging through our website to be using our website. We're encouraging people to, make phone calls, to do Zoom videos with us. We can do them, either through our website or walking them around the showroom with an iPhone and whatnot. So that's really what we've kind of been doing.
Christy?
So we had originally allowed appointments only, but we would have people stand outside the door and call and say, I can see nobody's in there. I want an appointment right now. And we really tried to allow people to still come in and just ask them to follow some guidelines, and that wasn't working. So we have now closed the showroom and have gone to virtual appointments only.
One thing we've learned from these gatherings the last month is business conditions during the pandemic seem to vary greatly based on geographical location. Kind of give us a first, what are in your area, what are the business conditions like, and then maybe kind of give us what's changed for your the showroom operation the last week or 10 days.
Yeah, well, it is strange, and I do think it's very regional. You're very right about that, because I talk to friends, all over the country, and they're all in different situations that I'm in. For us, it's very strange because it's obviously a huge slowdown in our retail business, which isn't the bulk of our showroom business, but it is a significant amount. And so you can definitely see it in our profit margins have gone down, even though our volume has actually, only slightly gone down. Now, mind you, we're also so wrapped up in new home construction that anything that was happening that's shipping now that makes our numbers look good were really things that started a year, maybe even 2 years ago. So it's not as indicative necessarily of what we're actually doing. So I have to kind of look more at our quoting, and our quoting has at least dropped. We're at probably a good 30% in what our quotes look like.
we're in about the same with our quoting. Our designers and builders are more in the consultative stages with a lot of people because they're sitting around their houses, spending more time, realizing how much they dislike their current kitchens and bathrooms. And our regular customers are much more likely to work with us on a virtual appointment and understand. Like Jeremy, our retail, just one in and one out, people have really dropped because we're not letting them in. But our counter has stayed really busy with trade purchases. It's more, we'll see the impact of this several months down the line and continuing beyond that.
I know my wife's been home so much. She wants to, we need new light fixtures and new cabinets suddenly. So
I'm in that same position. I'm guessing, and I am hoping that many people are in that same position.
yeah. So what's, tell me interaction with manufacturers. What are you hearing? Any delay in getting products?
You know, it's running by manufacturer. It depends on the manufacturer we're talking about, you know. So, you know, there's the obvious ones that have, you know, pretty much closed in general. And so, you know, we're either having to switch some of our orders that were with them. And then I have other people that are more like, oh, that's okay. You know, whenever they're back up, and they've just made sure their project in particular, they're not fully starting it until they need to. You know, so we also have we're a big inventory company. We stock quite a few things. And so I feel like on the showroom side of things, if people are looking for things more quickly, they are definitely just going, what do we have in inventory to even sell you? So we're not even talking about something that we couldn't provide them with. And so, you know, that I think is more helpful for us than in normal times when we're like, the world is your oyster. We can get you anything very quickly. And now that's not necessarily the case.
What are you seeing, Christy?
We don't stock nearly as much as a company like Jeremy's would, but we are still finding people coming in saying, whatever, just cancel it and get me whatever you can right now. And in some cases, we've just had to explain to the customer, we add this much time, it's just taking that much more now. And we keep not a lot, but we keep several loaner pieces on hand to be able to let people get their CO or use their kitchen until their right piece comes in. And we're out of those now. We've had to send out a lot of those loaner pieces.
You guys had touched briefly on things that you're doing because people aren't coming into the showrooms. Can you kind of dive a little bit deeper? How are you best connecting with your customers? Maybe what kind of creative initiatives are you employing that are keeping you, you know, front and center with your showroom customers?
We're doing, you know, both creative ways and also, you know, standard ways. So we had hired last year a number of outside sales staff because we've been implementing appliance sales into our showrooms. And with that, our outside team, while they are not going out, they are staying at home, but they have been making calls like you can't imagine. And we are having such good reception with people just seeming like lonely and out on their own. And particularly, you know, some of these owners of these companies that, you know, may have like people in the fields that are doing stuff. And, you know, in the past, you know, we had so much trouble getting a hold of them, or, you know, they didn't want to talk to us. And now they're just kind of like bored at home with their kids. And so we're having these great conversations. So we've really doubled down our efforts on like making sure we're contacting people that maybe in the past weren't even giving us the time of day. And we're hearing that they're not hearing from our competitors, which is strange. They're like, no, they're not, you know, I haven't heard. And, you know, so that's been really, really good. And we've actually, there's been a couple of projects that I can specifically talk about that I'm going, oh my gosh, they weren't doing that before with us, you know. And then we're really just like hitting social media really, really hard. We are just communicating. I'm doing a lot of videos, and just trying to communicate with people and talk to them about things. And, and we just started one thing that we like doing is having events. So this is very hard for us, is that we had a whole series of events that we had planned this year and through the summer. And now I just don't even see an environment for that anytime soon. And so after I did a training a few weeks ago on a Zoom call, my staff encouraged me to do it weekly. So I started my first weekly 3 p.m. Thursdays faucet side chats with Jeremy Smith about kitchen and bath. And so I had my first one yesterday, and it was awesome. We had about 60 people that joined me on a Zoom call, and then I record the Zoom call and we upload it to YouTube. And then, again, we're doing promotions particularly on Instagram, and then we're doing, like, I did an Instagram live with my training. So that's kind of how we're trying to reach people as best we can, and at least talk about the products that we care about.
Christy?
Awesome. Well, we have been reaching out to our regular clients, and we've also been going back and making sure that we're caught up on our thank you notes for past projects, and just kind of ones that maybe we haven't heard from in a little while, sending them out a little note, giving them a call, that sort of thing. But we're also kind of working on staying top of mind for the neighborhood and for just the city and surrounding areas in general. We've gotten a lot of free press lately because we offered to host food trucks in our parking lot, and the surrounding neighborhoods have just really appreciated that. The food trucks have appreciated it.
Yeah.
We got coverage on local news. We got the radio stations were announcing stop by Sandpiper Supply for this food truck and this food truck. So that's been that's worked out better than we could have ever hoped, because people are getting that may not have been in the market for something, are now hearing about us and keeping us top of mind for when they do have their next project.
That's great. Yeah, we've actually, our outside sales team in particular, we've really talked to clients about, we can bring you faucets, and drop them off at your, at your place of business, at your home or whatnot, in order to show your clients, specific things. Because again, it's really hard right now, where we've been spending so much time in the past really working on, it's so important in selling luxury to touch luxury, to have an experience. And so it's really hard to give people that experience, online. And so that's what we're just trying to, do any of these extra things to go above and beyond to help clients in terms of, with things like that.
Now, one of you mentioned earlier about taking the iPhone and doing a virtual tour of the showroom. Do you both do that?
Yeah, so we've, it's just one of those things that we communicate with people on the phones. We're like, hey, these are your options. You can come in, but you have to set an appointment and a time to be in our showroom, so that there are not multiple people in our showroom. We'll probably stay behind our desk and maybe point at things, or possibly we'll be wearing our masks and, walking you to things and asking you to stay away from us. Or we'll also, have our phones, and we can do a virtual tour of the showroom, or, using the website and creating these wish lists essentially together.
We've done the same thing with, we've set up with FaceTime and through Zoom as well on iPads, and each one of my showroom people has an iPad accessible to them to be able to walk people through when they call in, and we're able to walk over to the piece and show it to them. And if they request samples, we can run them out to their car, wiping them down with Lysol wipes on the way, and same thing with faucets, and let them still be able to see and touch and feel, just more selectively one at a time when they request it.
Well, it's just so important that we keep our personalities involved in this, you know? And that's why I really am trying to encourage that and encouraging these Zoom calls, and don't just do it through emails. You know, I've really been like, you know, hard on, you know, on my outside staff, my inside staff to be like, don't just send text messages, pick up the phone and call people, you know, really try to get them on a video conference, video call. It's so important that they see you and you see them and you guys are connecting as best as we can right now. And so I think that, you know, we were so used to, even before this, we were texting our clients and we were emailing them, and, you know, we would do whole projects and not see our client, you know, like it was just, you know, that's how they like doing it. But right now it's going, no, this is, it's super important for people to see you and your personality, and they're enjoying it. And so people have been more appreciative of those things if you can take the time to do it.
Have you guys had any reduction in force furloughs or like reduced hours, or things are still pretty good on that front?
Christy, go ahead.
Oh, we've had a few people take the Family Medical Leave Act leave that they can take.
Yep.
So they've let only about 4 people really have stepped back. We have had one person in our showroom who her husband has been diagnosed with the virus, and this is the end of her 2nd week home, and I told her to stay home for another week before she even thinks about coming back. So we haven't laid anybody off. We've had a couple of people furlough themselves, but they will be planning to come back.
Yeah, we're kind of in that same position essentially. You know, we haven't made any staff changes. We have cut some of our hours though. We're closing at 4 when we used to stay open until 5, and you know, and been just really aware of our overtime. And, you know, and it's, you know, it's something that in good times, it's the same conversation, which is overtime only exists if there is so much work that it cannot be done in a standard shift. But maybe sometimes we were more lax about that. And now we're going, absolutely not, unless, again, if there's something specific that we're talking about, that, you know, you have to do that. And so we, you know, we have some of those cases where like, hey, I had to, you know, I worked with this client, it was, you know, 5 hours, but I got money at the end of the day, you know, so I had to stay over 2 hours later. And so that's, you know, that's fine and justified, which is how it should be in normal times, but obviously it hasn't been as strict as it kind of is now.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you mentioned earlier about your faucet Thursday chats. Has this been a good time for both of you in terms of ramping up the training, or having the time to do some training with your staff?
You know, it is and it isn't. It depends. What's interesting is like my most seasoned staff are super busy. Like they are all like, nope, I am as busy as I've been. Nothing has really changed for me. It's been more my newer staff or people that were more reliant on retail customers. And so anyhow, so it's interesting. So we've set up quite a few trainings. I finally had to have one of my folks be responsible for our trainings, because we have so many regional managers and reps at home right now that aren't able to go out and aren't able to do these things, but they are able to do trainings. And it was starting to get, you know, we were getting inundated. And so we were like, okay, all of our trainings have to go through this one person. And then we're doing 2 trainings a week with those types of folks. We're doing a Monday training with appliances, and then we do a Thursday training for plumbing. You know, that's a Zoom call, so it's kind of set up and scheduled, because again, that's how we wanted it to be consistent. And then we've signed up for 2 different things, actually. The luxury products group, our buying group, has set up a phenomenal training that I am like beyond excited about. That is, you know, through the internet. It's more soft skills, so it's more sales training based than it is like product training. And it's about good customer service. And so yeah, so I've been assigning those kind of trainings out, and then doing a contest basically for our people to be, you know, taking them in their own time, or not in their own time, but, you know, when they have time, And then I've signed up a few of them, particularly some of my like folks that were more focused on appliance sales before, to do some of DPHA's training. So the Decorative Plumbing and Hardware Association has some very like specific training to like faucet training, to shower training. And so we have them signed up for those. So we have definitely been like, okay, if you have time, you're either cleaning, organizing, or doing training.
Same here. It's been yes and no for having time. It's my rock stars are super busy with getting quotes out and talking to their regulars. And so with Kim being at home because of her husband having the virus, and I've actually been splitting time between here and home because I have become a teacher now of my 5th grader. And they say it takes a village to raise a child, but it's going to take a distillery to homeschool one. So,
oh, Christy, you're the best.
So we've been fitting in the training as we can. We're like Jeremy. We've been inundated with the reps that are sitting home, and they can't believe that nobody wants to just spend all their time on Zoom with their products. But the LPG training that's been put together is absolutely amazing. It's top-notch quality, and that's going to be the easiest thing for us to be able to fit in. And in the downtime, a little bit of downtime that we have, that'll be the best way to fill the time.
What do you think lessons learned, what do you think you might take out of this crisis / pandemic that you could use going forward? What'd you learn?
Oh yeah. I think it's maybe a little too soon to know some of those things, But again, I think it's the same lessons that we learned in the last recession as well, which is, for us as a family business and a local business, like we rely so heavily on doing the right thing every day. When we hire an employee, it's very much because we need that employee, so that we don't have too much staff. We don't, we haven't tried to grow so fast. We haven't, added too many, buildings or debt or any of those things. So I don't think we've always kind of been doing those practices, but it's just that like doubling down of being like, yes, you were making the right choices at that time. And that, and now you're kind of seeing that as a reward, ultimately, that at least like I don't have that pressure of feeling like, oh, well, I've got all these employees and I don't know what to do with them, or, being in a place of debt that makes me nervous about how to pay some of those bills. And I understand other people do, and that, through no fault of their own. But again, it's just one of those reminders for us and how we've always grown our business slowly and steadily, that have, again, reminded us, okay, that was the right decision. Even when sometimes it was like, you could be making more money if you just did this. And, so anyhow.
I think if we can take anything away, it's make sure it's the same thing that Jeremy is. It's make sure that you hire the right people at the right time for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. One of our early on, back about a month ago, when the news stations came and said, are you going to keep everybody on? And I said, as a business owner, it's easy to look at a position and call it expendable. But how do you look at a person and call them expendable? And you really can't. So that's been the right thing. We've made the smart hires at the right time, and it is too early to tell what's the lesson to take away from this, because we're always learning throughout this. Everything's changing by the hour, by the day, by the week, and we don't know how long this is going to last. So the lessons that we learned for the first week worked for the first week, but they're not necessarily going to be the ones that work for every single week after that.
Based on your individual markets, I'm not asking for an overall industry prognostication. Based on your individual markets, where do you see if this thing slows down here? You see business coming back quickly because of what was already happening, or is it going to take a little bit more time?
I think that is I mean, there's an optimist in me that is like, hey, I live in Arizona, you know, people have been moving to my state and my place for a really long time, and that will continue to happen. You know, we're not a super dense population, so maybe that is helpful to us. But then there's also the parts of me that you know read and are seeing national news and understanding that you know, we're also a part of a global world, and you know, just because my market is doing a little bit better doesn't necessarily mean that people feel that way. So that may not be the case, but it's just guessing at this point.
Yeah. You hope it'll come back to be just as strong as it was right before all of this hit and everything spiraled down. But you know, the optimist says absolutely. The practicalist says it'll be a little bit more slow coming back to where it was, but hopefully it'll rebound. People will get back to where they say they want the quality rather than just the flash.
Yeah, and I do hope the big hope for me, and I am seeing it in my community, is people are rallying around local businesses and family business. And so I really do hope people take that into consideration. I know like I said, I'm seeing that, and I think that may be a big part of it, is that you have to support those businesses in good times and bad times, but especially, you know, in bad times. And so again, I hope that is a big piece of it for us and our family business, is that people go, oh my gosh, you know, they really do support our community in a much, much larger way. The dollars I'm spending with Central Arizona Supply are staying in our community versus going out of the country or going to another state or place. And they're really, you know, invested in this city and in this place as much as possible. And that's how I try to live my life. And I hope others do the same. But we just got to take it day by day. And that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, Jeremy and Christy, I really appreciate you taking a couple minutes to talk, and some very enlightening stuff that, you know, we always hope that these make our members realize that there's other people going through the same things that they are, and maybe they take a couple of best practices out of this as well. And again, thank you for your time. And later this week, we will have our 4th ASA Economic Impact webinar with our chief economist, Dr. Chris Keel. You can go to the ASA website, asa.net, and sign up for that. And if you're also looking in your inbox, we'll have a couple of reminders on that as well. Thanks for listening again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing this.